Hi, I'm Arden Kaywin, and welcome to the Pro Singer Success Collective. And today we're going to be talking to Grace Theisen, who is one of my biggest success stories. I'm so excited. Today we have one of my favorite people here, a singer who I've worked with for a long time, who's done a lot of my programs and who is just having a big moment in her career. And I wanted to have her on because I know a lot of you struggle with how to get from where you are to where you want to go. And, Grace is doing like an incredible job of like weathering the storms and up leveling every chance she gets. And she went from she was not performing, not releasing records, like nothing was going on, to stuff started to really get going. She won a big competition, a Best New Artist competition. And then now she's touring and she opened at the Crowfoot in Detroit, which is like a huge show. She's getting paid. And so I wanted to have her on to be able to share with you some of the things that have made the biggest difference for her. So I'm going to welcome Grace.
Hi. It's been so long.
I know. It's so exciting for me to get to talk to you about all the amazing things that you're doing. So let's just start by talking about what it was like what it was like before, when you were really just in the stuck,
Yeah. I just actually had a conversation with someone about this. Honestly, it felt incredibly unrealistic. When I moved back to Michigan wanting to do music full time, I had no idea what I was doing. I had barely performed with a band in general. And then when COVID hit, I was like, well, there goes all of those plans. But it just felt really defeating. I felt really anxious all the time. It was like I could see what I wanted to do, but I couldn't figure out how to get there. And I think I honestly, for a little bit, just sort of wanted to throw in the towel of look, this isn't going to happen. You're going to have to get another job. Maybe music is just something you do on the side, and that's fine. But I sort of knew inside of me, I knew I wanted more, but I wasn't necessarily sure how to get there. And it was honestly really just overwhelming. I think probably the biggest thing I tend to feel when I want something is overwhelm of not knowing where to start or where to go.
Okay, so let's just contrast that to what's going on now. So just because I've been on the entire journey with you, but I just want to tell everybody else the moment that you're in now.
Yeah. It's so funny because I feel like it's conversations like these that make me reflect on how I am actually feeling, because most of the time I'm just wanting to keep going, but I feel really content. I feel like I'm doing music full time, which I never thought I would be doing 2 years ago. I have an amazing community of women who we talk all the time that just has my back, and I have theirs, and we're at similar places in our career. Jill is one of them who did your program. I think I finally learned how to be able to do this in a way that doesn't make me feel like I'm constantly spiraling or constantly anxious. I just feel at home. I feel at rest. And there's times, of course, that I feel like I'm a little bit scrambling, but the overwhelming feeling I would just say is I'm happy. And even my sister lately has been like, oh my God, I have not seen you this happy. And I think it's just I'm not juggling 7 other jobs to also do music. I can just put all of my energy into one thing. And I actually surprisingly have time to rest, which was not a thing before.
I hear you say that, knowing you, the fact that that is also part of this, that you're not just doing this as a grind, but that you're actually enjoying.
Yes.
And so tell us, what are some of the big wins, some of the big external wins? Because the internal wins, so you'll notice that she celebrated the moment she's in with her internal shifts and transformations first, because that's a big part about how I've trained her.
So true.
Let's celebrate the external wins, the thing that's allowed you to do. So tell us about your tour, tell us about the shows, tell us what's going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it started really in 2021 with a music video that got me a spot into a program very similar to yours that was more focused on songwriting with a celebrity vocal coach. And she has a whole songwriting team. And I just wasn't expecting my video to win that spot. So I think that was the first momentum that felt like, oh my gosh, like what I'm putting out into the world, what I've worked so hard the last 2 years at building the record, the music videos is means something. And it actually like was worthwhile. Started with that. And then, yeah, I just recently got back from a tour. That was really honestly, in a lot of ways, my dream tour. I got to go with two of my best friends. It was a writer's round tour. It was all females. And we just had the most amazing, like intimate shows with people where my favorite show is like me being able to like have a quiet room where I can share my heart and share my music. It wasn't like we're fighting people talking and audiences, and we got to like sleep and work out, and like we built this tour in the way that felt right for us. That wasn't like a grind. It felt like we could make money doing it but also have rest at the same time. And again, that is something I didn't realize I needed to be successful, and now that I know it, I'm like being super intentional about putting that in. So we went on tour across like Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan. And then recently my record just came out and I got a Spotify listing, which is like, again, incredibly hard to do. I don't have many streams on Spotify before this. I truly am just like, well, I have no idea how that happened. I tend to throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, but that was a huge win for me. And the record is finally out. And yeah, my band has just playing shows around Michigan at, again, venues that I never would have thought we would be playing within 1 year of me, doing this, but also like having a full band. This is new for me. I've never had a full band. I've never had to be the leader. And we're playing at the Crowfoot and we're playing at Bell's and we're playing at the Arc. And like, it's just been incredibly rewarding and quick, I guess. But I say that also knowing like how much work on the back end it has been for me. Like from the outside, I probably feel like it looks like that. Like, how is she doing this? But you know me, like I do work hard and I try to be strategic about it. But yeah, those are some of the most recent wins that have felt like, and now that I'm doing it full time is probably the biggest win, is that I'm able to do this full time. And that's been really incredible.
What was the best part for you about being handed a $5,000 check for a performance?
So for that show, it was actually a $1,000 check
that
we just did. Yeah. We didn't win, but we actually still got $1,000. But either way, I was just like, we came into this show being the only female band. All the other 5 bands were rock bands, like there was no other females on the stage but me and my band. And just to like walk in there knowing like I have written these songs, we have worked so hard, our set was so tight. And like, while we didn't win, I didn't really expect us to win because they were sort of looking for that like rock metal, you can't understand what they're saying performance. That's never going to be me. I walked away being like, wow, we just learned so much. And also we were on that stage with them. And again, they've been touring, these bands that were in there have been touring for years together. And we have been a band for 4 months. And I just think there was something about being able to walk up there and know that I deserve to be there because of our work. And I learned so much from that experience of like what we could do better, and also what kind of shows we don't necessarily want to be doing with like, we're not a band that wants to get high and get drunk before we go on stage. And like, that's a lot of the industry. And so it's just kind of figuring out where do we fit. Yeah. But it was incredible. Like it was, again, a year ago, I would have never thought any of this would be happening. So I think every time I just wake up and I'm like, what is even going on?
Yeah.
So
what I want to point out to those of you listening is I want to point out a few things that she said and a few things about who she is being. Okay. Because we talk a lot, in the work that I do with singers about it's not always what you are doing, it's who you are being. And then your actions flow from there. So you notice she said several times, we have learned a lot. Mm-hmm. There is a growth mindset here.
Yeah.
There is a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. I know a lot of you get stuck in fixed mindset of what isn't working, of what isn't right, of what should be happening that's not happening, all this stuff that takes you down this rabbit hole of feeling less than, of feeling like you're pushing a giant boulder up a hill and not getting anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you want to, Grace is saying like, this is happening quick. And one of the big reasons why this is happening quick for her is because number one, she shows up and she does the work. The other thing she said is, I am a hard worker, but I also know what my limit is, that I need rest, rejuvenation, restoration.
Yeah.
You have an off switch, which you didn't used to have.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. That is, your energy, for those of you listening, your number one job as a performer is to make an impact on your on your audience. And that is all energetics. That is all just the energy. Sound is a form of energy that you are cultivating within your body and you are sharing with those who are listening. And so if your energy is compromised, sabotaged, contracted in any way because of what's going on in your mind, you're not going to make that impact. And so the recordings that you do are not going to land. The performances that you do, you're going to end up with lukewarm. And that was where Grace was a long time ago, when she was putting all this effort and this drive and this hustle and it was showing up and her body was contracted. It was affecting her voice. It was affecting her from being able to make the sound that felt good and made the biggest impact and sounded the best. And so all of this just left everything in the career lukewarm. Didn't suck, but it wasn't also getting, the breakthroughs that are blowing people away. That's what's happening now. And so the idea of the growth mindset, which is she's learned how not to make herself bad. She's learned how not to judge and get stuck in inner critics, so that when, like she said, I got the information wrong. I thought it was $5,000. No, it was $1,000, but it wasn't something that was like, oh, that makes me feel bad. It was no, like we learned from that. We learned how to build a better mousetrap, so to speak.
Yeah, totally.
So, we're talking today about some of the things that have allowed her to have this big moment that she's having. Growth mindset, number one. Second thing is understanding about what she needs to do to manage her mindset, her heart set, and her energy so that she gets to make the biggest impact in those recordings, in those performances. And I'm sure there's more that she's going to share with us. So when you think about how the way you are showing up has changed over the last, year and a half, like since you started to work with us and get into all this mix, what would you say are the biggest ways that the way you're showing up to your music, to your journey has changed?
I would say probably three things. One of the biggest takeaways I think from your programs that I took was 1,001 things, but and the learning with the having growth mindset. I remember we had this conversation of after every performance, you write down 5 things that you could do better and 5 things that went well. And it's just been interesting for me to after that show we did have that we won $1,000, I had moments of disappointment where I'm competitive. I want to win every time. But when I got home and was able to process it with my sister and talk about it, she was like, you take from that what feels like fits for you and your band, and then you leave the rest. Right. And that's not something I was able to do before. I think before, I would only write down the negatives and not the positives. And I would only focus on the negatives. And so I think that's been something for me with any opportunity we get. I'm looking at it as how can we learn from this? But also, what did we do really well? I didn't used to celebrate wins. I just wanted to move on. And then I would say I want to pause
you on that really quickly, because this is so important for those of you who are listening. Okay. One of the big things that Grace learned from doing the work with us is how to celebrate wins. And there's a huge reason for that, because again, we're talking about why this has been such a quick breakthrough for her in her career. And one of the reasons is because she's not just aware of the things she wants to optimize. She's very aware of the things that are working. Because if all you're focused on is what's not working, you miss a giant opportunity to stack on and condition the things that are working so that you keep doing them, right? So celebrating wins is she, looks at the performance and she's like, okay, these are the things that we did really well. That's essential for you guys to start doing. What are you doing well? So make sure you keep doing them in addition to what do I want to optimize? So I just wanted to add that there.
Yeah.
And so
I would say the other thing, and this is something I just recently heard Brandy Carlisle say of people tend to think that I get what I want, but I ask for what I want, knowing when I get it, it's gonna it's going to be what's needed. It's going to help the world be a better place. And I think for me, as you know, doing music has always meant having some sort of social justice component to it. Like I need it to feel there's a reason why I'm doing this. And I think I've just started to be more direct and being like in booking of like, this is why my band would be great for this. And like, this is why I think we would be really, I wouldn't have done that before. I didn't used to throw a ton of spaghetti at the wall. And I do, like, I sent a lot of booking emails. I sent a lot of like random, like, to be honest, I don't even remember how we got into that competition, but I'm sure it was me just like signing up for something and we got picked. But I think it's like, there's a lot of missed opportunities. If you're not willing to like put yourself out there, you're going to get a lot of no's. And
so I was just writing. What are the biggest things that you feel like you've learned over the course of this work that have allowed you to put yourself out there and not be scared of being judged or not be overwhelmed? Or, you know, what do you think has been the biggest shift for you around that?
Worthiness, like knowing that I am worth these opportunities, knowing that I have put in the hard work, even hard work, I guess, aside, it's just cultivating an energy inside of me. And this is what the meditations do. And like, these are things that I still do. The meditations, I do like the vocal warm-ups also are lessons all the time. I mean, my sister's probably like overhearing them.
Okay, so I also want to pause you here because for those of you who have been through, who've done my programs and you're looking at Grace and you're like, okay, I want what she has. Listen to what she's saying. Yeah. She's still doing her daily practice. She's still like, right? So accountability.
Yeah, accountability is huge. Yeah. Well, and it's a job. It's my job. I have to treat this like any other job that I want to be successful at. And that means like thinking through physically, not drinking as much alcohol before shows or like the little things as well. But what was the question? Sorry.
About your biggest learnings about how you're showing up differently now than before you did this work with us.
I would say probably the third thing has been learning how to build myself a community of women who are at the same level where we're all trying to learn how to level up, but we're all like, we have this safe space we've created. And this is something that I did learn within our program of just being honest of like, we'll talk about like, man, when you got that opportunity, I got really jealous right away, but then we'll talk through that to be able to be like, it wasn't because of what you got, it's because that's something I wanted. But it's just like this supportive network that it's like only 3 or 4 of us. There's not a lot, but it's something that I needed to be able to like work through those emotions that are going to come up of like jealousy, of feeling defeated, of feeling like, of feeling like I really wanted this opportunity and I didn't get it, where they have my back and they're like, here's the reasons why either that wasn't the fit or who you are as a person that shouldn't make a difference as to like, affecting my confidence. And I think that is something that in the program, we are super honest with you. And on those like mindset calls, like we have to be like, this is what I'm struggling with. I think that's important moving forward all the time. If I'm not honest about what I'm struggling with, I can't work through that to like get to the next level. Right. That holds me back. And so I think those are probably the main things that I are a daily thing for me of checking in and making sure I do those.
And what I want to mirror back here for those of you listening, right, is there's an aspect, what she's saying is there's an aspect of community that she learned in working with us, because that's a huge part of what we do.
Yeah.
It can feel very lonely. It can
isolating.
Very isolating, especially if you're a solo artist, which is what you were starting off as before you got the band, you know. Or if you're an opera singer or a musical theater artist, it can feel very isolating. And so to come into this community and be surrounded by people who are going through what you're going through, who understand, what was that like for you? Because it must have made an impression if you then went out and created your own community of accountability and of support.
Well, I think it was going through the exercise where we have those 5 things and like, what are your top of like, one of mine is connection. Like I have to have connection within a career. I have to have connection within my personal life for me to feel like myself. And I think I had to figure out like, okay, if I need that, how do I find that with other women who are musicians, which is interesting because I think there's this competitive spirit between women with musicians of like, we tend to not want to be friends because like they might have what I want or whatever. And I think I'm learning more and more, like if one of us succeeds, it just means they have the opportunity to bring friends up with them. And like, that's the mindset that I had with my nonprofit of like, it's celebration over comparison, but that comparison is really loud sometimes. But if I have women in community who I can talk through it with vulnerably and be honest, that is like just going to, I don't know, that to me feels like one of the biggest pieces that I don't think we tend to think we need, is having people who are going through it and where we can feel safe and honest, being able to do it.
Yeah. And I think, for you having had that experience in our community showed you that there was something you didn't even realize you needed.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
To be able to then say, okay, this is what's going to help me and buoy me.
Yeah.
So that I don't get sucked down that rabbit hole of compare and despair, or so that I have a place for my anxiety or whatever's coming up, around this work. And so here's my next question, because you mentioned that one of the biggest celebrations after, all the transformation you've had, has been being able to be a musician full time. Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear when you made that decision and what that was like for you.
To be honest, that decision, I was working to make that decision starting in the summer of like, I knew I could book enough gigs. The good news about being in Michigan is you can gig full time. It might be cover gigs, but like you're going to get a great paycheck. And that gives me the opportunity to be able to then play shows that I want to play with my band. But I actually got let go from my job 2 months ago due to the housing market downsizing. And so then I was like, all right, I could get another job, or I could get scrappy and figure out how do I make this work with music full time. And honestly, that has been just me. When I moved back to Michigan, I found someone who was doing that. She's become one of my really good friends, and I just mimicked what she was doing. I reached out to all the same people that she had on our schedule that she was booked. It's like a lot of this is you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Find people that are doing it and then do those steps, like do what they're doing because it works.
So here's the keys. Resourcefulness.
Yes. That's what I was looking for.
There are three traits. I'm saying three and I'm putting 4 fingers up. 3 traits for the singers who I see who are the most successful. And resourcefulness, we talked about accountability, and we talked about commitment to doing the work. Yeah. So with that resourcefulness piece, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Oh, this is working over here. I'm going to make that work.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's been awesome too, because it's like, now that I'm able to be in control of my schedule, I can figure out when do I need to be making money with gigs here that are like cover gigs, and when can I go on tour with my own music? And it gives me this, and also when can I take a month off? Like in May, I'm taking an entire month off doing nothing, because I need to figure out for me also moving forward, what does success look like? Like that's a question for me I don't know that I've answered yet. And that's something that I'm really trying to figure out is like, what does success look like for me in this career? And what do I want my career to look like? But I would have never, I think before your program, I would have been too anxious to be like, I can't take a whole month off. Like funds aren't going to come in. But now I'm just like, it'll be fine. It's going to work out the way it needs to work out. But I have to take that rest because I'm tired. And it's been a long 2 years of putting this record out. And I now am like, I've earned this rest, and I need to sort of like get that creative energy back. That's not going to happen by me keep grinding. I've hit that wall many enough times to be like, that's not it.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is intentionality.
Yeah. Being
intentional about what does success look like.
Yeah.
Because without that, now you're over here, you're over here, you're over here, you're over here, versus this is where I'm going. This is where I am. This is the gap between the two. Mm-hmm. And if I know where I'm going, I can reverse engineer it. I can work backwards.
Yeah.
And be very intentional so that I don't end up a year from now having created something that isn't aligned for me.
Yeah.
Because that was what was happening before.
Yes. I feel really, really lucky that I've entered this music industry of like wanting to be an artist at age 30 and after having done your programs, because I feel like I'm not wasting time on all the other like BS that most people probably waste time on. I'm just like, it's sitting down and figuring out what you want. And I don't think I would have done that before. And then I think I would have wasted a lot of years being like, I don't want to get stuck doing cover gigs, but right now they're paying the bills. So how in a year can I get away from that? It's like, it's building and thinking out futuristically of what does work for me.
And also, I'm going to bring this back for you as I hear you talking, because the coach in me cannot turn my coaching brain off, right?
I love it.
Which is like gratitude
Yes.
for
all
of these cover gigs right now.
Yes, totally.
Because you are making a living full-time as a musician, which is when we first had our call, however long ago before we started working together.
Yeah.
That was the pie in the sky for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have the confidence to do that. I didn't even know 3 hours worth of music back then. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing. And now it's just like, wow, my job, even with cover gigs, I can learn from and it's like, it's all learning opportunity for me. It's all practice. It is literally all practice. And that is something that I forget to like be thankful for, is like, wow, my job is literally just practicing music.
You are getting paid.
And performing.
You are getting paid to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
And every challenge is just an opportunity to up-level.
Yeah.
And
that's
so this is, it's part of the reason that I wanted to have a conversation with you today is because, oftentimes people will ask me, how do I get from here to there? And does it really take very long? And the answer is you get from here to there by understanding the gap, the issues that are keeping you here and preventing you from going there.
Yeah.
And then once we do that, how long does it take?
A lot shorter time than I thought it was going to, that's for sure.
Yes.
But I think something too, I would say, is like doing your program, I did it twice. So that's what
you did. No, so you did first level intensive.
Yes.
And then you did peak performance. You did second level too.
Okay. Yes. So, and I think a lot of times people don't think that they can take time out of their career to get the skills they don't know they need. And it was cool because we had COVID, so no one was outperforming, and I felt like I did have time. But even looking back, I'm like, I would still do that again now, of like, take the time away from the grind to figure out how to do it better. And that is something that your program does, from both like emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like, it's so worth it. It might feel like 2 months is like a long time, and yet it flies by so fast. And it's an investment. Like you always say, it is an investment into your career. And I don't think, when I think back to like it paid, between the competition that I won and the other things that I like have done, it's all paid back. The money has all come back to me. Yeah. But it took like me being like, all right, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to take a leap of faith. And it was well worth it. Yay.
Well, it makes my heart just like swell when I see you posting your celebrations and, going all excited because you have gigs and your record's doing well and you're on the Spotify playlist, So tell everybody how we can find you on Spotify and how we can find your record.
Yes. So it's Grace Theisen, which is Theisen. That is my music name. So all my music's under there. That's my website. And it's on Spotify, Apple Music, all the streaming services.
Go support Grace and feel free to support her. And if you're in the Midwest and she's touring in your area, go see her shows, go talk to her after. And so now here, you guys, I want to invite you to think about where you are right now in your singing in your journey. And if you are relating to Grace, if you're feeling like you are out there hustling and you're writing and recording, or you're auditioning and you're practicing and you've got so much training and it's been years and you're like not seeing the results of all of that hard work and training and hustle in the form of the thriving career that you now see Grace, having. And it's been a really tough slog, and you're starting to wonder, like, what am I doing wrong? Am I really talented enough? Am I really good enough? If you're relating to this, then I want to invite you to book a call with me. This is exactly where it started with Grace, just a phone call. And we took about 45 minutes, an hour to get really clear on what wasn't working in her career and in her singing, and what were the things that she wanted to create. We talked about the gap between where she was and where she wanted to go. And we talked about how this was affecting her in other aspects of her life. And we talked about the opportunities that exist. And so in doing so, we got really clear. And then I laid out for her a very, simple step-by-step strategy of what we could do to be able to completely change the reality that she was living in her career. And like she said, it's a little scary because it's like, in that moment, you have a choice of whether, you're going to take that step forward and invest in the future that you want to create for yourself. And if you do, I'll show you what that looks like and we'll get you rocking and rolling. And if it's not right for you, that's okay too. That's okay too. The point is that I want you guys to know that you don't have to be in that contraction, in that suffering where you're just on the bench and you have all this talent, you have all this passion, and yet you're not living it in the form of a thriving career and living a life through your gifts in the way that Grace is now experiencing. And so this is what me and my team, this is what we are the best in the world at helping people do. And so if you'd like our help to do that, then don't waste a minute. Book a call with us. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll click the thing right at the end of the video here on the screen and be taken to our calendar link to book a call. If you're watching on Facebook, just go look in the comments and you'll get the link to book a call. When you click the link, either way, our calendar will open up and you'll see, pick a time that works for you, and I'll give you a call and we'll hop on the phone and we'll see what we can create together. And if it sounds good, awesome, we'll rock and roll. If not, that's okay too. All right, guys, thank you for tuning into this episode of Pro Singer Success Collective. Thank you to Grace. We're so excited for all of your success, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you want to subscribe, click the link right over there that says subscribe. And if you want to book a breakthrough session with me, which you absolutely should do, then click the link right over here that says book a call to schedule an appointment to speak with us. I'll see you on the next episode.